He said he was in Portland for a summit, but his son's game ended early, and his wife didn't go home. She followed instinct. And what they saw in that beach house ended everything without a word. Welcome back to Mr. Charles Stories, where dignity speaks louder than denial, and sometimes the truth is waiting at the door you were never meant to open. If you've ever felt something was off, even when they swore everything was fine, stay with us. This story is yours too. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe silence is not weakness, but wisdom. Irenia Vale Dorsey checked her watch again as she poured the last of Zarian's orange juice. The house was quiet, sterile almost, like a showroom home no one lived in. Except they did, or at least they used to. Kaylin had left 2 days ago, sealing a multi-stage investment deal in Portland, he'd said, brushing his lips across her cheek like a habit. She hadn't asked which company. She hadn't asked for details. He hadn't offered any. The moment the door closed behind him, she stared at it longer than usual. Zarian walked into the kitchen, backpack slung over one shoulder and his basketball shoes untied. Game still on? She asked. He opened his phone and frowned. Coach said maybe. The roof's leaking. They're waiting on maintenance. Irenia nodded, walking over to fix the laces of his shoes the way she always did since he was little. 13 now, and still didn't mind her doing it. You nervous? Zarian shrugged. Not really. Dad won't be there anyway. He didn't say it with hurt. He said it with fact. That's what tore through her more than anything. The suitcase had been packed with more beach shirts than business attire. She noticed, didn't mention it. Instead, she asked calmly, which hotel again? He smiled, then stuttered. Yeah, same one as last time. The Portland Regency. She said nothing. But the last time they stayed in Portland, it had been at the Halcyon. She knew his tone. It wasn't lying, it was rehearsed improvisation. The phone buzzed. Coach again. Game cancelled. Leaking's worse than they thought, Zarian said, reading the text. Whole gym's shut down. He told us to go enjoy the weekend. Irenia gave a small smile and brushed his curls back. Want to stop by Grandma's? She asked. Sure. It was an ordinary exchange. Too ordinary. They were halfway down the freeway, sun pushing through the windshield, when Zarian asked the question, Mom, why don't we go to the beach house anymore? Irenia kept her eyes on the road. The one with the wide stairs and the brown wood porch. We used to go there all the time. She exhaled slowly. We got busy, I guess. No. He shook his head. You always pause before you say, I don't know. I don't think that's the real reason. His voice wasn't accusatory, just observant, like her. She took the next exit without a word. The road narrowed as it curved around the last stretch of coast, the ocean peeking in flashes through cypress trees. The house hadn't changed much, at least not from the outside. Zarian was the first to notice. Mom, someone's here. A silver sedan sat in the driveway, the same one Kaylin had taken on his trip. Irenia said nothing. She parked slowly. Her fingers didn't tremble as she removed her seatbelt. Stay beside me, she said calmly. Zarian nodded. The front door was unlocked. She turned the knob with the same hand that once wore a diamond band worth 6 figures. The room smelled faintly of citrus and wine. Her eyes scanned like a security system, calculating, taking inventory. 2 glasses in the sink. A scarf, cream with thin black lines, draped over the staircase rail. Not hers. Too trendy. Tasha's style. Upstairs, laughter. Female. It wasn't loud. It wasn't reckless. But it was real. Zarian froze, his mouth slightly open, his eyes no longer curious, but hollow. Irenia reached for his hand. Come. They stepped back outside, door gently closing behind them. Zarian didn't ask anything. Irenia started the engine, pulled onto the road, and made a turn. Not toward home. Toward her mother's. Her mother opened the door before they knocked. Something told me to put on tea, she said, eyes drifting from her daughter's face to her grandson's posture. They stepped inside. Mrs. Kendrick set the teacups down. then held Irenia's face in her hands. "You don't have to tell me. I already see it." Irenia simply nodded. Zarian sat on the couch, quiet. Mrs. Kendrick looked over at him. "You okay, baby?" He nodded too, but his face didn't. Mrs. Kendrick didn't push. Instead, she looked at her daughter and said, "When a man forgets the weight of his name in your house, don't raise your voice. Raise your presence." Irenia sent one message. "We're at my mother's." Zari saw everything. "I don't need you to explain. I need space." Kaylin's reply came hours later. "It wasn't what it looked like," she replied once. "It looked like clarity." Irenia taught her son more in that 60 seconds inside the beach house than a lecture ever could. That dignity is not volume. That boundaries don't always come with announcements. That your presence can exit quietly but leave an echo behind strong enough to shake foundations. She didn't protect Kaylin from the consequence. She protected her child from confusion. The scent of cinnamon drifted through Mrs. Kendrick's kitchen. Irenia moved quietly, her robe tied, sleeves pushed up as she flipped pancakes on the skillet. Zarian sat at the small table near the window, pencil in hand, sketching something in his notebook. Neither of them spoke much, but the silence wasn't awkward. It was deliberate. Safe. Mrs. Kendrick entered with her garden gloves still on. "The soil's soft this morning," she said, pulling them off. "Storm's coming tonight." Irenia didn't look up. "It already came." Mrs. Kendrick nodded. "Then maybe now it can clear." 3. Back to back. Irenia silenced the phone and slid it across the counter. Mrs. Kendrick looked at the screen, then looked at her daughter. "You planning to answer at some point?" "I will." "When?" "When I have something to say." Mrs. Kendrick didn't push. She never did. "Your boy's watching. How you handle this. It'll become part of what he thinks love should survive." Irenia nodded. "Which is why I'm being careful. The beach house wasn't bought on impulse. It was where Kaylin proposed, back when he was just launching his first commercial development, long before the world started calling him a billionaire visionary. Back when he still asked Irenia's opinion on floor plans and meeting decks. They painted the porch railings together the week after they closed. They slept in sleeping bags the first night, no furniture yet. And when Zarian was born, his first summer was spent there, wrapped in soft blankets and ocean wind. It had history. That's why the betrayal stung harder there. He didn't just lie. He desecrated a memory. Zarian sat on the porch at his grandmother's house, notebook still open, drawing a sketch of the beach house stairs. Irenia stepped outside with a sandwich and juice box. "Eat." He took it with a small thanks. After a moment he said, "Did Dad love her?" Irenia paused. "I don't know what love means to him anymore." Zarian nodded slowly. "Is he coming back?" She knelt beside him. "He'll try. Will you let him?" "That's not something I can answer in a sentence, Zari." Back in the city, Kaylin stood in the hallway of their home, staring at Zarian's framed 4th grade science project. It was a paper volcano. He had missed the actual presentation day. Client meeting ran long, he had told Irenia that night. She didn't argue. But now, in the silence of this house, all those excuses echoed louder than words. He remembered the last thing Irenia said before he left. "You never forget numbers. You never forget deal terms. So when you forget us..." "I know it's a choice." He hadn't responded. He'd just kissed her cheek and walked out. He texted again. "Please, I'll explain. Let me talk to him. Or to you. Or both." No response. He picked up his phone to call, and then stopped. Because the truth was, he didn't have anything to say that didn't sound rehearsed. What could he say? That woman meant nothing. I was lonely. I didn't think you'd find out. None of it sounded like love. None of it sounded like fatherhood. So he tossed the phone onto the couch and sat in the dark. Irenia took Zarian to school from her mother's. He hugged her tighter than usual before getting out of the car. "Don't let him lie to you," he said quietly. She blinked. "What?" "I think he's lied so much, he forgets when he's doing it. Just don't forget what we saw." She nodded. "I won't." Irenia didn't call Kaylin. She called Dr. Harmon, their old therapist from premarital counseling. "I don't want to save the marriage," she said, "but I need a safe place to hear him." "Doctor," Harmon didn't blink. "You're not trying to reconcile." "No, I'm trying to confirm that leaving doesn't make me cruel," Dr. Harmon replied gently. "Leaving with clarity is never cruelty. It's instruction." They scheduled a session for Wednesday afternoon. He didn't sleep Monday night. He sat in the kitchen staring at the scarf Tasha had left behind. He hadn't called her either. She'd sent one message the day after he left the beach house. "You didn't say goodbye." Was it that serious with her? He never replied, because it wasn't about Tasha. It never was. It was about power. He'd gotten used to not being questioned, used to Irenia's grace as silence, used to being trusted by default. But now, the trust was gone, and her silence wasn't grace anymore. It was distance. Tuesday evening, as Irenia sipped tea on the back patio, her mother spoke from the doorway. "You know what I admire about you?" Irenia looked up. "You didn't try to match his lie. You just moved." Irenia's jaw tightened. "I wanted to yell, throw something, break something." Mrs. Kendrick sat beside her. "And instead, you gave your son a memory of strength, not chaos." Irenia exhaled slowly. "I don't know how this ends, Mama." Mrs. Kendrick smiled faintly. "Maybe it doesn't end. Maybe it evolves. But let it evolve on your terms, not his." The room smelled of sage and fresh linen. Dr. Harmon sat between them, calm and balanced. Kaylin was the first to speak. "I never thought it would go this far." Dr. Harmon asked, "What does this far mean to you?" Kaylin shifted. "That she'd leave. That Zari would stop speaking to me. That I'd be locked out of my own house." Dr. Harmon turned to Irenia. "Do you want to respond?" She looked directly at Kaylin. "You weren't locked out. You walked out. We just didn't hold the door open after." This wasn't just a story of infidelity. It was a case study in how complacency erodes relationships, how emotional neglect is betrayal even without physical contact, how children are not blind, and sometimes the quietest of them see the most, and how choosing not to yell doesn't mean you've accepted pain. It often means you've chosen dignity. Have you ever sensed something was wrong, even when every detail looked right on the surface? Have you ever kept quiet, not because you were weak, but because you were watching? Tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you were Irenia? Would you have turned the car around? If this story already has your heart, hit like, share it with someone who needs to. Hear this and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, where we don't shout the truth. We walk straight into it, because this isn't the end. It's just the moment the silence started speaking. Wednesday morning started slow. Irenia stood at the kitchen sink in her mother's house, staring out the window. The trees outside barely moved, but her heart wasn't still. She hadn't seen Kaylin since the therapist's office, but he'd texted twice after the session. She hadn't responded, not because she wanted to punish him, but because she had nothing left to say that wouldn't cost her peace. Zarian was getting ready for school. She heard him upstairs, zipping his backpack, humming something soft under his breath. Despite the weight of everything, he was still trying, and that mattered. She walked over to the fridge, opened it, then closed it again. She wasn't hungry. Her appetite hadn't returned since the beach house, but she was trying to do the small things. Dress, sleep, show up. Down the hall, Mrs. Kendrick folded laundry. She didn't speak unless Irenia invited her in. She never hovered. That was her way. Present but not pressing. She knew her daughter was rebuilding from the inside. The doorbell rang. Once, Irenia wiped her hands, crossed the hallway, and opened the door. It was a courier, delivery for Mrs. Irenia Vale Dorsey. She signed, took the package, and closed the door. A small white box. No sender name, no note on top. She didn't need one. Inside was a photograph, old, from their beach house years ago. Kaylin had been holding baby Zarian, who was drooling on his shirt. Irenia was laughing, her head leaned back, curls wild in the wind. Someone must have taken it without them noticing. Beneath the photo, a handwritten card. I don't miss the house. I miss who we were in it. She stared at the card for a long time, then set it down without a word. She wasn't ready to forgive memory. Not yet. That afternoon, after school, Zarian sat on the porch steps, sketching again. His pages had started to change. Fewer buildings, more faces. Sometimes hers, sometimes his own. Once, Kaelin's, half smiling, half shadowed. Irania sat beside him. "You're quiet lately," she said. He kept drawing. "You too." She reached over, touching his knee gently. "Do you want to talk about the beach house?" He shook his head. "Okay." A pause. "I just want to know if we're safe now," he said. She nodded. "We are." Another pause. "Do you still love Dad?" She closed her eyes briefly. "I don't know how to answer that yet." He didn't press. He turned the page and started a new sketch. Later that evening, Irenia sat at the dining table with her laptop open. She'd started researching organizations, women-led support groups, trauma recovery programs, shelters, counseling funds. Something had stirred after the therapy session. Not just survival, purpose. She wasn't looking to erase what happened. She wanted to turn it into something someone else could use. She typed the word home front into a search bar. Then, after a moment, added, non-profit name availability. It was available. Her phone buzzed again. Kaelin. This time, he sent a longer message. "I know I have no right to ask for anything, but if you'll let me, I'd like to sit down with Zari. Not to explain, not to defend, just to say, I was wrong. Let me know if and when that's okay." She stared at the message for a while. Then she put the phone face down and walked to the living room, where her mother sat crocheting. "He wants to talk to Zari." Mrs. Kendrick didn't look up. "Do you think it's wise?" "I think it's overdue. But is it for healing, or for clearing his own guilt? I don't know. Maybe both. Then stay in the room when it happens." The next day, Irenia picked up Zarian from school. The car ride was quiet until halfway home when she said, "Your father wants to talk to you." Zarian looked at her quickly. "I'll be there, in the room. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. You're not responsible for fixing what broke." He looked down at his shoes, then nodded. They scheduled the meeting for Saturday, at Dr. Harmon's office again. Saturday came slowly. Zarian wore his nicest hoodie, the one with the small embroidered lion on the chest. Irenia wore charcoal grey, soft but firm. Her hair was tied back in a low bun. Kaelin arrived early. For once, he looked smaller somehow, like someone had taken some of the power out of his frame. He didn't try to hug Zarian. He didn't even sit too close. Dr. Harmon greeted them and took a seat. "You asked for this," he said to Kaelin. "So speak carefully." Kaelin nodded. He turned to Zarian. "I'm not going to tell you that what you saw was a mistake. It wasn't. I made a choice, a selfish one, and you paid for it." Zarian didn't blink. "I wish I could go back and make a better one. I wish I'd remembered that being your father isn't just about showing up on birthdays and giving advice when I feel like it. It's about consistency, and I lost that." Zarian finally spoke. "Why her? Why there?" Kaelin swallowed. "Because it was easy. And I thought I could control the damage." Irenia watched closely. Not just the words, but the body language, the tone. "And when Mom found out, did you think she'd yell? Leave? Forgive you?" Kaelin shook his head. "Honestly, I thought she wouldn't say anything." Zarian turned to Irenia. "You're better than I thought." She smiled faintly. After the session, in the car, Zarian leaned against the window. "That helped," he said softly. "Not because he fixed anything, but because I saw him squirm." Irenia didn't laugh, but her lips turned slightly upward. "You needed to see him own it." "Yeah, and now I can stop drawing him in pieces." She glanced at him. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "In my sketches, I always split his face. Now I can draw him whole. Still wrong, but whole." That night, Irenia updated her non-profit registration online. She added a mission statement: "To help women and children rebuild call Kalen again, but she also didn't block his number because she'd stopped expecting him to be more than he was. And in that shift, she gained more peace than she had in years. Sunday morning carried no weight, no loud sounds, no forced smiles, just a slow rhythm that let the house breathe. Irenia stood in front of her bedroom mirror, tying a soft scarf around her neck, not to hide, but to mark a new kind of readiness. Not for him, for herself. Mrs. Kendrick was outside watering the lilies. Zarian had already finished breakfast and was curled up on the couch reading a graphic novel. The normalcy of it all felt like a protest against everything that had been lost. Irenia's phone buzzed once. A message from Dr. Harmon. I rarely say this, but that session yesterday, it wasn't closure. It was foundation. You handled it with strength your son will remember for life. She stared at it for a while, then turned the phone face down on the dresser. It wasn't the compliment that mattered. It was the truth in it. She hadn't flinched, hadn't folded, and most importantly, she'd let Zarian feel what needed to be felt without forcing him to forgive or perform. By noon, she was seated at her mother's kitchen table with a legal pad full of scribbles. Home front. It wasn't just an idea now. It was forming into something real. A non-profit for women who didn't need to be rescued, just reminded that they could rescue themselves. She sketched out 3 core programs. 1. Silent support, weekly group sessions for women who don't want to speak yet but want to listen. 2. Dignity kits, curated care packages with journals, books, emergency cash cards and wellness tools. 3. The Child's Eye, a counseling subsidy for children who witnessed emotional betrayal at home. Mrs. Kendrick walked in and glanced at the page. That's more than a program, she said. That's an answer. Irenia didn't smile, but she nodded. I think I'm finally ready to move without dragging pain behind me. You never dragged it, her mother replied. You carried it with grace, but even grace gets tired. That evening, Kalen sent another message. Not to ask for anything, but to inform. I'm putting the beach house up for sale. I know it doesn't erase what happened there, but no one should live inside a memory that betrayed them. Irenia read the message twice. Then again, there was no manipulation in it, no bargaining. It was just a decision, and for the first time in a long time, she felt no rush of emotion at his name. She deleted the message, not in anger, in neutrality. Later that week, Zarian came home from school with a question she hadn't expected. Can I write about the beach house for my English essay? She blinked. You sure? He nodded. I want to. Not to tell everyone what happened, just to tell my side of it. She placed a hand on his back. Then, tell it how you saw it, not how you think others want to hear it. I was thinking of calling it The Day the Porch Felt Cold. That's a strong title. I don't want to make Dad a villain. I just want to be honest. That's exactly how you honor truth. Friday afternoon, Irenia got a call from a local women's advocacy center. They'd received her non-profit application and wanted to offer shared space in one of their buildings, rent-free for 6 months. If she could run weekend workshops, they'd cover the utilities. She didn't cry, but she sat down. Hard. The email that followed confirmed the arrangement, and with it came something even stronger than hope. Legitimacy. That weekend, Irenia held her first test workshop. Only 5 women came. One cried the entire time. Another said nothing until the very end, when she whispered, "Thank you for not asking us to be over it." Irenia went home that night and wrote in her journal for the first time in months. Today, healing. Looked like sitting beside 5 women who didn't owe the world their story, but showed up anyway. Not because they were broken, but because they wanted to stop pretending they weren't. On Monday, Zarian's teacher emailed her. His essay had been selected to represent his grade level in a statewide writing competition. The subject had stunned the panel, vulnerability framed through the eyes of a son who didn't ask for truth, but met it at the door anyway. Irenia reread the essay that night. It was short, just 3 pages. But on the last line, he'd written, "She didn't slam the door. She didn't shout. She just took my hand, and we walked away together." Kaylin wasn't mentioned once. Tuesday morning, a package arrived. This one wasn't anonymous. It was from Kaylin. Inside was a signed deed transfer. Half of the proceeds from the beach house sale. Transferred directly to Homefront. No note, no call. Just the document. And that was enough. Zarian came home that afternoon and handed her a piece of paper. "What's this?" she asked. "A poem. We had to write one about a memory that taught us something." She read it. Simple, bare, but brutal in its clarity. There were 2 wine glasses in the sink, a scarf not hers on the stair rail. But the loudest thing in that house was the quiet way my mother walked out. She folded it, handed it back. "You want to publish it?" He shook his head. "Not yet. I want it to live just between us for a while." And that's when she knew they were going to be okay. Wednesday evening. Irenia stepped into her old home. Not to stay, but to collect a few things. The space felt unfamiliar now. Too tidy. Too quiet. The kitchen counters gleamed like they'd been scrubbed for guests, not for living. On the table, a vase of white tulips waited in a glass cylinder. Fresh, deliberate. She didn't touch them. Instead, she walked to the office where her files were stored. Financial documents, medical records, Zarian's school files, everything. She'd always managed while Kaylin closed billion-dollar deals. Funny how the home still ran on the things she handled while he focused on the bigger picture. Upstairs, their bedroom remained untouched. Even the bed was still made with her side turned down. It made her pause. She took a deep breath and stepped back, heading to Zarian's old room. His posters were still on the wall. His old gaming chair leaned into the corner. She gathered a few sketch pads he'd asked for and some framed pictures, one of which had been taken at the zoo on a spring day years ago. She left without touching anything else. Back at her mother's, Zarian had fallen asleep on the couch, a pen still resting on his open notebook. She pulled the blanket over him and glanced at the page. He'd written the title for something new, Things I Thought He Understood. She didn't read further. Some things needed to remain his. That night, she sat with Mrs. Kendrick on the porch swing. A warm breeze swept through the air. "You think he'll ask for another chance?" her mother asked. "He won't," Irenia said calmly. "He's starting to understand what that silence meant, that we didn't just walk out of a room. We walked into ourselves." Mrs. Kendrick nodded. "There's strength in letting people live with what they broke." The next morning, Kaylin sent a message, not a plea, but a question. "Would it be all right if I came to watch Zarian's next game?" Irenia didn't answer immediately. She showed the message to Zarian after school. He read it, then looked up. "You think he means it? I think he's trying. Whether it's enough or not is up to you." Zarian shrugged. "I want him there. I don't want him on the team." She nodded. "Fair." Game day arrived 2 days later. Kaylin showed up 15 minutes early, dressed in a simple hoodie and jeans. No bodyguard, no designer watch, no public persona. He stayed at the back, didn't wave, didn't shout. When Zarian scored, he didn't jump or cheer, but he smiled, just enough. After the game, he waited by the car lot. Zarian walked over with Irenia beside him. No tension, no performance. Kaylin kept his voice low. "You played well. Thanks." A pause. "You mind if I walk you to the car?" Zarian looked at his mother. She nodded once. As they walked, Irenia held back just enough to give them space. She watched the way Zarian's shoulders were relaxed, not open, but not guarded either. It was a small step. Later that night, Kaylin sent another message. "Thank you for letting me show up. I know it's late, but I'm learning." Irenia didn't reply. She didn't need to. The message had reached the right person. By Saturday, she held her second Homefront session. 12 women this time. 2 brought their teenage daughters. The theme that week: what does survival look like when no one claps for it? One woman said, "It looks like brushing your teeth, even when you want to scream." Another said, "It's leaving a closet full of clothes and choosing peace over property." When Irenia's turn came, she said, "Survival looked like my son seeing me walk away quietly, without dragging him through the fire. A woman in the back whispered, "That's not survival, that's leadership." After the session, one of the teens came to her. "Miss Irenia, do you think broken homes mean broken kids?" She crouched to her eye level. "No, sweet girl. What breaks kids is confusion, when the truth gets buried under adult lies. But when you live in truth, even if it hurts, your future stays whole." The girl nodded. "Then I want to live in truth too." The next morning, Zarian's poem was featured in the local newspaper. His teacher had submitted it without telling him. The editor titled it, "What My Mother Taught Me Without Saying a Word." The city read it, and Kalen did too. He called, left a voicemail. "I just read the piece. Tell him, he made me see myself, and tell him I'm proud. Even if I don't deserve to be." Irenia didn't relay the message. She simply told Zarian. He read it, and it moved him. That was enough, because growth didn't always come with applause. Sometimes it came with stillness, and Irenia had mastered stillness. Sunday evening, Irenia stood at the back of the community center, arms folded loosely as she watched the final minutes of setup for her third Homefront session. The turnout was growing faster than she expected. Not just women from the neighborhood, but ones who had driven in from towns 40 miles out. Some bringing friends, others coming alone with questions they hadn't even said out loud yet. She didn't use the word survivors when she welcomed them. She didn't like labels that suggested they were only what they endured. She called them builders, and she reminded them that healing was not an apology to the past. It was permission to move without shame. She handed out new journals that afternoon. On the inside flap of each one, she had printed a quiet message. You were always enough. They just weren't ready to recognize it. After the session, she sat alone in the quiet of the now empty room, rereading a quote. One of the attendees had shared, "Love without loyalty is noise." That one stayed with her. On the drive back to her mother's, Zarian was quiet in the passenger seat. Not withdrawn, just processing. "Did you read the comments?" he asked suddenly. "Which ones?" "The ones on the newspaper's website." Under the poem, "I didn't know they posted it online." They did. Some people said it made them cry. Others said they wished their mom had done the same. She glanced at him briefly. "How do you feel about it being out there?" He shrugged. "I'm okay with it. I think it helped more people than it hurt." "That's a big way to think." He leaned his head against the window. "It felt like I was telling the truth, not spilling secrets, just telling the truth." When they got home, she made tea and sat beside her mother, updating her on the session. Mrs. Kendrick smiled faintly. "You're not just starting something, you're becoming something." Irenia looked at her. "What do you mean?" "You've always known how to lead without raising your voice. That's rare. People think strength looks like noise, but you've been showing them that quiet is power too." She nodded slowly, feeling the truth settle in her chest. The next morning, she got a call from the city's Department of Family Services. They had read the article, seen the feedback from Homefront participants, and wanted to talk about a potential partnership for long-term trauma response workshops. It wasn't a grant, but it was influence, infrastructure, reach. She accepted the meeting. Later that week at Zarian's school, she was called in to speak to his language arts class about storytelling. His teacher had asked if she'd share what it meant to tell stories. That came from real experiences without turning them into weapons. Standing in front of the class, she said, "Writing about pain doesn't make you angry. Writing about pain without understanding it does. When you tell the truth kindly but clearly, it becomes healing, not harm." A girl in the back raised her hand. "Did your husband cheat on you?" The class got awkwardly quiet. Irenia smiled gently. "He broke trust. But this story isn't about what he lost. It's about what we learned." Zarian didn't flinch, didn't shrink. He looked straight ahead, steady. Afterward, his teacher whispered, "You did more for them in 10 minutes than most lessons could in a week." Outside, Irenia asked, "How do you feel about that?" Zarian said, "Proud. I like who we are now." She paused at that. "Who we are?" He nodded. "We don't have to pretend anymore." It feels easier to breathe. That night, she found a letter in her inbox. Handwritten, scanned, from Kaylin. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't poetic. It read, "I never imagined I'd be the one on the outside of your strength. I used to believe control was power. Now I understand that peace is. You don't need me to say I'm sorry again, but I needed to write it anyway. I hope Zarian always sees the mother, not the mistake." She closed the file and didn't respond, but she didn't delete it either. Later that week, Zarian asked to visit the beach house before it was sold. She looked at him carefully. "Why?" "I want to say goodbye to what it was, not what happened there." They drove out together on Saturday morning. The place looked smaller, quieter, more like a chapter than a home. They walked through the living room. Nothing much had changed, but the energy had. It no longer felt like betrayal. It felt like memory being released. Zarian touched the railing on the stairs. "This is where I froze." She nodded. "But I'm not frozen anymore." He walked outside, stood on the porch, and took one last picture with his phone. Then they got in the car and left. On the drive home, he said, "I don't hate Dad. I just don't trust him yet." "That's fair. I think he's trying, though." "I think so too." A pause. "You okay with that?" "I'm okay with him learning." Back home, Irenia sat with her journal and wrote, "We didn't fall apart. We peeled away what didn't serve us. And now, what's left is honest. It doesn't shine, but it stands." And in the quiet of that evening, she realized something deeper. You don't rebuild for the person who broke the house. You rebuild for the child still living in it. Wednesday afternoon sunlight stretched across the living room rug at Mrs. Kendrick's house, cutting quiet patterns on the floor. Irenia sat cross-legged on the carpet, reviewing forms from the city's Family Services Department. They were ready to co-sponsor Homefront's Trauma Resilience Program, starting with a pilot in 3 public schools. The work was expanding faster than she planned, but not faster than she could handle. Across the room, Zarian was sprawled out on the couch, reading a graphic novel with earbuds in. Every few minutes he'd glance at her, not needing to say anything, just silently checking in. Irenia looked up from her papers. "You hungry?" He shook his head. "Homework. Finished it during lunch." She smiled and returned to her documents. Mrs. Kendrick came in from outside, wiping her hands on a towel. "A young man called the house line a few minutes ago." Irenia raised an eyebrow. "Who still uses landlines?" Mrs. Kendrick shrugged. "Apparently your ex-husband." Irenia leaned back. "What'd he say?" "He wanted to know if he could come by. Said he had something to return." Irenia paused. "He say what?" Mrs. Kendrick looked at her carefully. "No, just said he didn't want to leave it in a mailbox. Said it was better placed in your hand." Irenia didn't answer right away. Zarian pulled out one earbud. "You okay if he comes?" She met her son's eyes. "Are you?" He thought for a moment. "As long as I don't have to talk, I'm fine watching from the stairs." Mrs. Kendrick folded her arms. "He didn't ask to stay long, but I won't be far." Irenia nodded. "Let him come." An hour later, Kaylin arrived at the front porch. He wore no cologne, no suit, just a plain green sweater, jeans, and worn leather shoes. He looked like someone who had learned to take up less space. Irenia opened the door but didn't step aside. He held out a manila envelope. "I found something in the safe." She looked at it, then at him. "I didn't read it, just recognized the handwriting and knew it wasn't mine." She took the envelope and stepped back. "That it?" He nodded once. "That's it." She didn't invite him in. Zarian sat on the staircase, watching quietly. Kaylin turned to leave, then paused. "I know I said this before, but thank you for not turning my failure into your identity." She didn't answer, just closed the door behind him. At the dining table, she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter she had written to herself 9 years earlier, 2 weeks after Zarian was born. A postpartum journal entry that she had tucked into the safe before they moved. She read, "I want him to grow up knowing what stillness feels like. Not silence from neglect, but calm from certainty. I want him to know that love isn't a performance, that if someone loves you, they don't need a crowd to prove it. That piece should feel familiar, and anything that doesn't, you're allowed to leave behind. She folded the paper and let it sit in her lap. Zarian walked over slowly. What was it? A letter I wrote to myself. When you were born, he nodded. I'm glad you still believe those things. I do, maybe even more now. That weekend, Homefront hosted its first collaborative session with a school counselor. 12 mothers and 8 children attended. They did breathing exercises, circle talks, and quiet sketch journaling. Irenia watched one boy draw a heart with a crack down the center, but a small bandage laid across it. The mother beside him started crying quietly. She didn't stop him. She just let him keep drawing. After the session, the counselor pulled Irenia aside. You realize this space you've built? It's not just for recovery, it's for redefinition. You're not helping them return to who they were. You're showing them who they're allowed to become. She didn't reply, but the truth of it settled deeply. That night, she checked her email and found one from the Department of Education. They were offering a small grant for Homefront's school expansion if she could pilot 3 more weekend workshops and collect impact feedback. Attached was a letter of recommendation from Zarian's English teacher. It read, Irenia Vale Dorsey is not simply building programs. She's building lives that can breathe again. And that breath ripples through classrooms, homes, and futures. She stared at the screen, hand over her mouth, tears threatening to fall. Not because of the recognition, but because it was happening. Real, sustainable, hers. Monday morning, the house was still when Irenia woke. She sat in bed for a moment, her hand resting on her chest as sunlight slipped through the blinds. The letter from the safe had been folded into her journal the night before. She hadn't read it again, but its words had stayed with her, like they had been waiting patiently to return. She moved through her morning slowly, pouring tea, checking Zarian's lunchbox, replying to emails from Homefront volunteers. One message stood out. Someone from the state board had attended a session anonymously and wanted to discuss spotlighting Homefront during Mental Health Awareness Month. She flagged the email for later. Zarian came downstairs, backpack slung lazily over his shoulder. Morning, he said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Morning, baby. Eat something before you head out. He grabbed a slice of toast, chewing as he scrolled through his phone. I saw Dad's name on the PTA list. Is he coming to the school board night? I'm not sure, she said. He signed up to help with event setup. That's all I know. Zarian thought for a second. I'm okay if he's there, just not if he's trying too hard. Irenia smiled faintly. Trying too hard is still better than not trying at all. I guess. They rode in silence to school, the kind that didn't weigh anything. She dropped him off, watched him walk in with a slow confidence that hadn't been there months ago. At home, she prepped for a midday meeting with a donor, a woman who had built a real estate company from nothing after walking away from a 10-year marriage. They met at a quiet cafe near downtown. You've got something special with Homefront, the donor said, after hearing Irenia outline the current programs. You're building more than recovery. You're building options. And when women have options, they have power. Irenia nodded. That's the goal. No one should stay anywhere because they're afraid of what happens if they leave. The donor agreed to fund 6 months of transportation stipends for single mothers attending weekend sessions. Walking back to her car, Irenia took a breath and let it settle. Every decision she had made since walking out of that beach house was now carrying someone else forward. That mattered. Later that afternoon, she got a text from Kaylin. I'm helping set up at the school tomorrow. Thought I should give you a heads up. No agenda, just there to do what I said I would. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Tuesday came with cool weather and nervous chatter from parents gathering in the school gym. Folding chairs lined up in rows, a refreshment table being arranged, microphones being tested. Irenia helped set up near the back. She wore simple black slacks and a navy blouse. Professional but soft. Her badge read community partner, Homefront. She saw Kaylin across the room, unrolling a banner with another father. No designer suit, no assistant, no eyes on him. Just a man doing what he was supposed to do. Zarian arrived with his class, giving his mother a small wave and his father a quick nod. That was all. During the program, a student read a poem about resilience. Another shared a story about a grandmother who raised her after her parents separated. Irenia felt her throat tighten. Then Zarian was called up. He stood at the microphone, hands steady, voice clear. "My name is Zarian Dorsey. This is my piece called The Line I Won't Forget." He read. There was a hallway, and in it, silence. Not angry, not empty, just waiting for someone to say what mattered. And she did. She didn't blame. She didn't beg. She just said, "I won't live where I'm not seen." And I saw her. When he finished, the room was quiet. Then a few parents began to clap. Soft, then stronger. Irenia stood still, hands together, eyes glassed over. Kalen didn't clap loud, but his head was bowed, not in shame, just in recognition. Afterward, Zarian walked over to his mom, accepting a soft hug. Then he looked at his dad. "You can come to the next one too," he said. Kalen smiled faintly. "Thanks, kid." That night, back at home, Irenia sat with her laptop, finalizing Homefront's next newsletter. In the section titled Community Moments, she wrote, "Sometimes the bravest thing you do is simply decide that your silence will no longer be mistaken for consent. Sometimes strength is measured in who you become after the apology never arrived. And sometimes you walk through fire quietly, so your children never have to feel the heat." She hit send, and for the first time in months, she leaned back in her chair and felt steady. Friday morning opened with grey skies and the scent of light rain on the pavement. Irenia stood by the window at the community centre, arms folded as she watched a group of early arrivals gather near the entrance. The newest Homefront session would start in 30 minutes, but 3 women were already seated inside, journals open, tea in hand, speaking in low voices. Outside, the world still moved like it always did. Inside these walls, something else was happening, a quiet reshaping. She turned back toward the whiteboard and wrote the day's theme, what peace feels like and what it isn't. Zarian had texted earlier, a simple message. "I think I'm starting to forgive him, not forget. Just forgive." She hadn't responded yet. She wanted to sit with that, let it land. By 10:15 a.m., the room was full. One woman raised her hand early. "I thought peace would feel like nothing, like numb. But now I think it's more like space. Just enough for me to exhale." Another added, "I used to call silence peace, but now I know peace doesn't shrink you. It lets you grow without being afraid you're taking up too much room." Irenia nodded. Peace doesn't beg to be kept. It stays when it's safe. And when it's not, it leaves with its head held high. After the session, as the room slowly emptied, one attendee lingered. She was younger, early 20s, soft-spoken. "Miss Irenia." "Yes, sweetheart. Can I come even if I'm still with him?" Irenia looked her in the eye. "You can come, especially if you're still with him." The girl's eyes welled. "Okay, thank you." That afternoon, while organizing materials in the storage room, Irenia found a photo, tucked into an old binder, a group shot from her and Kalen's engagement party. She was laughing in it, champagne glass mid-air, surrounded by friends she no longer spoke to. It didn't hurt to see it. It didn't pull her backward. She slipped it back in the binder and closed it. At home, Zarian was working on a new sketch at the dining table. A set of hands, one large, one small, reaching toward a window. On the window's glass, he had drawn faint reflections. She walked over and kissed the top of his head. "Another poem?" "Not yet. This one's just for me." He looked up. "Is it weird that I don't hate him anymore?" "No. It means you're healing. I still don't trust him. You're not supposed to rush that. Trust should take its time." He paused, then asked, "Do you?" She took a breath. "I trust that he's learning. That's all I need right now." The next day, Kalen emailed her. It was short. "I'm stepping down from the tech advisory board next month. I want to be more present in Zarion's life. I don't want to be the guy who shows up twice a semester and calls it fatherhood. She read it twice, then replied, "Being present isn't about titles. It's about time. Zarion will see the difference." That weekend, Kaylin picked Zarion up for lunch. First time in 3 months. They went to a quiet diner on the west side of town. No photos, no announcements. When they came back, Zarion dropped his bag by the door and said, "It was good. We didn't talk about the past. We just laughed." He didn't try to explain anything. Irenia raised a brow. "And that was okay with you?" "Yeah. I think I just wanted to remember what it felt like to be with him before things got weird." Later that evening, Irenia sat on the porch with Mrs. Kendrick. The wind had picked up, and the trees danced against the pale blue sky. "You ever think you'd end up here?" her mother asked. "No. You angry about that?" Irenia shook her head. "I'm grateful. Not because of how it happened, but because of what I've learned to build." Her mother smiled. "That's how I know you're ready." "For what?" "For the part that comes after healing. The part where you dream again." Irenia looked out at the horizon. "I haven't dreamed in a long time." Mrs. Kendrick sipped her tea. "Then start small. Dream something soft, something safe." That night, Irenia opened a blank page in her journal and wrote, "I want to laugh in a kitchen that smells like ginger and citrus. I want to dance barefoot in the living room again. I want love, not to fix me, but to rest beside me without needing to be explained. And if I never find it, I want peace to be enough." She closed the journal and turned off the light. And for the first time in a long time, she slept deeply, without defense, without replaying scenes, without waiting for the floor to fall out. Sunday morning, sunlight filtered through the lace curtains in Mrs. Kendrick's living room. Irenia sat barefoot on the couch, legs folded beneath her, sipping warm tea. Zarion was still asleep upstairs, his breathing steady and soft through the ceiling vent. The house had found a rhythm, not perfect, not quiet all the time, but safe. Her journal lay open on her lap. Last night's words stared back at her. She traced the sentence, "And if I never find it, I want peace to be enough." Then she added a new line, "But if love returns, I want to meet it with both eyes open." She had spent months rebuilding the foundation of her life, through boundaries, through silence, through the quiet dignity of showing up for herself, even when no one clapped for it. Now, a question lingered in the stillness. What does living look like when the crisis ends? Mid-morning, she and Mrs. Kendrick prepared breakfast together. The kind of ordinary act that felt sacred now. Pancakes flipping in rhythm, kettles steaming just loud enough to remind them they were alive. "I signed up for a painting class," Irenia said, placing plates on the table. Her mother paused. "You haven't painted in years." "I know. That's why I'm going." Mrs. Kendrick smiled, wiping her hands. "I like this version of you. Not busy with fixing everything. Just being. That's the goal." When Zarion came downstairs, hair still a little wild from sleep, he grabbed a plate and said, "Guess what?" "What?" "I showed my poem to someone at school." She cried, then told me her dad left last year too. Irenia looked at him. "And how did you feel?" He shrugged, kinda strong, like, not because I was proud of the pain, but because I survived it. She reached over and squeezed his hand. "Words matter," she said. "Yours taught me that." That afternoon, they went for a walk through the neighborhood park. Spring was pressing through the trees, soft green buds peeking from branches that had spent months surviving the cold. Zarion kicked a rock down the path as they walked. He asked, "You think Dad's really changing?" She thought for a moment before answering, "I think he's slowing down long enough to see what he missed. Whether that turns into change, that's on him." Zarion nodded. "I like that you're not making it about him anymore." "It never was." "Yeah, but before it was like everything he did hurt you." She looked at her son. "It did. But hurt doesn't have to become home." As they rounded the bend near the duck pond, Irenia spotted someone sitting alone on a bench. At first, she didn't recognize him. But as they got closer, she saw it was Kaylin. He stood when he saw them, hesitant. Didn't expect to run into you here. We walk every Sunday, she said. We don't change routes to avoid people. Zarion gave a small wave. Hey, Kaylin smiled gently. Hey Z, there was a pause. I'll keep walking, Zarion offered, motioning to the pond. Give you both a minute. He walked off, headphones in. Kaylin looked at Irenia. I didn't come here to disrupt anything, I just needed air. This is where I used to come when I needed to think. Thinking's good. I've been doing a lot of it. I know. I'm not asking for another chance. She raised a brow. Good. Because this isn't about second chances. It's about what's real now. He nodded. I read that newsletter. The line you wrote about walking through fire quietly. It hit me. She crossed her arms lightly. I wasn't trying to hit you. Just trying to tell the truth. You did? He paused. I never gave you space to need something. You were always meeting everyone else's needs. And I got used to that. I did too. That was the problem. They both fell quiet. I'm starting therapy next week, Kaylin said. Good. I want to be better for Zarion. You'll have to earn that. With time, not declarations. He nodded. I don't expect a welcome back. Just the room to do better. She looked at him one last time. Then walk forward. Don't hover at our edge. He nodded again. Understood. Zarion came jogging back. Ready? She smiled. Yeah. They turned and walked away, the bench fading behind them. That evening, at Homefront's online team meeting, one of the coordinators shared a message from a participant. She wrote, I used to think I had to stay for my kids. Then I saw a woman leave quietly, without destroying the man, but also without protecting his image. And now, I know I can walk out without burning down. I can rebuild without bitterness. I can live. Thank you for showing us how. Irenia read it twice, then closed her laptop and sat in the dark, letting the words echo. Outside, wind moved through the trees. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud, but steady. The kind of peace that doesn't ask for applause. Just room to keep walking. The following Thursday, Irenia sat across from a group of 12 women in the community center's smaller conference room. Homefront had outgrown its original space, but she still liked to keep one. Group small. A circle for new members who weren't ready for larger crowds. This group called themselves the Quiet 12. Today's topic was boundaries without guilt. One woman, Dana, shared first. I used to say yes so fast I didn't even hear the question, and then I'd be drowning in regret, still smiling like I could breathe. Another woman nodded, eyes wet. If I said no, I felt like I had to give a TED talk about why. Like saying no wasn't allowed unless it came with a performance. Irenia let them talk for a while before adding her own voice. Boundaries don't mean you're cold. They mean you've finally stopped setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. One of the women whispered, I wrote that down. After the session ended, one of the youngest women approached Irenia. I didn't even know I was allowed to say, that hurt. I thought if I wasn't bleeding, I had to be okay. Irenia placed a hand on her shoulder. Hurt doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers until you finally listen. Later that day, she stopped by Zarion's school to drop off a folder he'd left on the kitchen counter. She caught him during lunch, sitting with two friends. When he saw her, his face lit up, not out of embarrassment, but out of recognition. He walked over. You saved me. Always, she smiled, handing over the folder. Before he left, he leaned in. By the way, Miss Kim, the counselor, said she wants to meet you. She said your work's making noise in places. Good noise, I hope. The kind that makes people pay attention. Back in the car, Irenia sat for a moment before starting the engine. Something about that compliment, the kind that makes people pay attention, lingered. That night, she received a message from the state's Office for Women and Families. They'd reviewed the impact data from Homefront's pilot program and wanted to feature her in a short documentary series highlighting community resilience. She read the message twice, then again, and for a moment, she felt the old instinct rise. to downplay it, to say someone else deserved it more. But then she remembered, peace doesn't shrink you. She clicked reply. I'd be honored. Let me know the next steps. The following week was a blur of planning meetings, parent-teacher conferences, and one long conversation with Kaylin over the phone, scheduled, short, and focused only on co-parenting. He had started therapy, had shaved his beard, was beginning to speak less to defend himself and more to understand the silences between his sentences. During the call, he said, I've been reading some of your newsletters. I used to think your strength was distance. Now I know it's clarity. Irenia didn't respond to that, not with words. But later that night, she wrote in her journal, maybe redemption isn't returning. Maybe it's learning how not to repeat. Friday evening, Zarian came into her room holding his laptop. You need to see this. It was an email from his art teacher. Zarian's drawing had been selected for a youth exhibit at the city's Creative Arts Museum. The theme was Through My Eyes. His piece, the hands reaching toward a window, one large, one small, and, in the reflection, a boy looking back at both versions of his father. It's called What Grew from the Ruin, he said. Irenia blinked hard. That's beautiful. I didn't want to make him the enemy. I just wanted to show what's possible when the ground splits and something still grows. She pulled him into a hug, holding on longer than usual. That weekend, during the latest Homefront session, she started with a question, has your definition of strength changed? A woman named Roxy answered softly, yes. I used to think it meant keeping everyone together. Now I think it means keeping yourself from falling apart when they walk away. Irenia nodded slowly. Exactly that. After the session, she walked out into the sunlight. A group of younger women lingered by the center steps, laughing about something unrelated to trauma or healing. And for the first time in months, she didn't think about what had been lost. She thought only of what had survived. The night before the youth art exhibit, Irenia stood in front of her bathroom mirror, applying a light gloss to her lips. She wasn't dressing up for anyone, but for herself, for the woman who once looked in this same mirror and saw exhaustion where Grace should have lived. Now, Grace had returned, quiet but rooted. She adjusted her blouse, slipped on earrings she hadn't worn in over a year, and stepped into the hallway where Zarian was waiting with his art portfolio clutched under one arm. You look nice, he said. So do you. She smiled. Are you ready? As I'll ever be. The exhibit was held at the Downtown Arts Center. Families lined the lobby, chatting softly beneath ceiling lights shaped like falling leaves. Student artwork lined the walls, and each piece was framed in minimalist black. Zarian's was near the center. What Grew from the Ruin, a drawing of two hands, one large, one small, reaching toward a window. The reflection showed not faces but two outlines, one clear, the other incomplete. A note card beside it read, sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's a quiet decision to grow anyway. A few feet away, Kaylin stood alone. He didn't wave, didn't approach. He just looked at the drawing, and then, slowly, at his son. Zarian met his eyes, then turned back toward his mother, and Irenia didn't feel anger or regret, only clarity. A gallery volunteer approached. We're taking a few photos of parents with featured students. If you're comfortable. Zarian looked at her. You okay if he's in it too? I'm okay if you are. He nodded. Then yeah, the photo was taken. The three of them, side by side. Not a family like before, but not strangers either. Afterward, Kaylin said softly, thank you for the space, for not turning him against me. She answered gently, that wasn't my job. And you're not against him. You just forgot how to show up. He nodded. I'm still learning. Good. Keep going. They didn't linger. That night, back at home, Zarian uploaded the picture to his personal folder. Not for social media, not for show. Just for record. I think I can remember this one, he told her, without pain. The next morning, Irenia received an email from the documentary producers. They wanted to film the first interviews next week. and asked if she'd be willing to record her opening voiceover at a community center. They included a script suggestion. She read it silently, then shook her head. She wrote her own instead. When everything around you breaks, people look to see what you'll protect. I protected my son, and in doing so, I found the strength I'd buried under politeness. This isn't a story about betrayal. It's a story about what you do after it. She hit send. That afternoon, she took a call from a woman in another state who wanted to replicate the Homefront model. "We don't need to franchise," Irenia told her. "We just need to teach women that they're allowed to rebuild, with or without applause." The woman said, "That's exactly why I called." Later that week, Irenia took Zarion to a bookstore after school. He browsed the graphic novels. She picked up a book of essays on parenting through crisis. At the checkout counter, the clerk glanced at her copy. "Hard season?" Irenia smiled. "No, just reflecting on the one we survived." On their way out, Zarion looked up at her. "You think there's a version of us that exists 5 years from now, where all this is just a story we tell? I think that version already exists, and we're becoming them every day." He nodded, satisfied. That night, she sat alone at the kitchen table and wrote a new letter to herself. This one didn't go in a safe. It went in her desk drawer, near the pens, near the light. "Dear me, you didn't stay small. You didn't bend until you broke. You didn't let love, once lost, define your value. You didn't scream when silence was stronger. You didn't fall apart. You rose." Have you ever walked away, not out of anger, but because peace finally mattered more than proving a point? Do you believe healing should belong to the quiet ones too? The ones who didn't yell but rebuilt anyway? Tell us in the comments, which moment from this chapter stayed with you most? Was it the drawing? The photo? The letter she wrote to herself? If this story is speaking to something you felt but couldn't name, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, where the truth doesn't always shout, but it always stands. Because survival isn't the end. It's the start of something far more honest. Monday morning arrived with a breeze and a sense of motion. Not chaos, not urgency, just forward movement. Irenia stood in the entryway of the newly assigned office space for Homefront. The city had approved her pilot program for expansion, and the Family Services Department had offered her a semi-private wing. Inside the West Park Civic Building, a refurbished library now converted into a hub for women-centered community programs. The walls still smelled faintly of paint and wood polish. A contractor walked past with a box of wall outlets. A city coordinator stopped to ask where she wanted the water dispenser. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't glossy. It was real, and it was hers. She stepped into the center room and placed her keys on the desk. This was the space where women would arrive, not because they needed rescue, but because they were done pretending they didn't need room to feel. Mrs. Kendrick had offered to watch Zarion for the day. He had another project to finish for school, and she hadn't wanted to rush him. As Irenia unpacked her box, journals, brochures, a small potted plant from the last office, she found a card taped to the side, in Zarion's handwriting, "For your new beginning. You didn't wait for permission. You made it." Her fingers tightened on the note, her throat catching for a moment. She folded the card and slid it into her wallet. At 10 a.m. sharp, the door opened, and Alina, her newest volunteer, arrived holding a tray of hot drinks. "There's no sign outside yet," she said, "but I already saw 3 women sitting in their cars, just waiting. They know where to find you." Irenia smiled. "They're early. They're ready." She nodded once. "Let's open the door." The first women filed in around 10:15. Not much talking, just quiet scanning, bodies assessing the safety of a new place. One woman rubbed her hands together over and over. Another clutched a leather-bound notebook like it was armor. Irenia greeted each of them softly by name. No introductions needed. They'd signed up online, but they had all heard about Homefront from someone who had sat in one of her circles before. The chairs were arranged in a semi-circle. No podiums, no tables separating anyone. Just a shared space with tissue boxes, herbal tea, and light jazz playing softly in the background. "I'm not here to fix you," Irenia began. "I'm here to help you remember you were never broken." One woman exhaled so deeply, it felt like a decades-old weight was being released. They talked about coping mechanisms, trust erosion, and the shame of admitting they'd stayed longer than they should have. "I kept thinking he'd return to the man I married," said one. "But that man only existed in memory. I told myself I was strong enough to wait it out," another added. "But I was just scared of being alone." Irenia listened, letting the current of honesty pull them closer together. Then she shared, "I didn't leave because I stopped loving him. I left because I started remembering how to love myself without fear." The session lasted an hour and 45 minutes. No one rushed out when it ended. They lingered, as if the air in the room held more permission than anything they'd breathed in months. After the last attendee left, Elena approached. "You're doing more than you think." "I hope so." "No," she said firmly. "You're building a net under women who were told falling apart would mean failure. And now they're realizing they can land and still rise." Later that afternoon, Irenia sat in her car with the windows down, sipping a smoothie and checking her emails. There was a message from the documentary team. Subject, final filming date confirmed. "We'd like to do a walkthrough interview with you and your son. Optional, of course. We believe his voice brings an irreplaceable layer to your story." She read it twice, then sent a quick text to Zarian. "They want to ask you some questions. You don't have to do it unless you want to." His reply came 2 minutes later. "If it helps someone else see what healing looks like, I'll do it." She smiled, then tucked her phone away. At home that night, the house was quiet. Mrs. Kendrick had gone to bed early. Zarian was in his room, sketching again. Irenia stood in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug, staring at the old photo pinned to the fridge. A snapshot of her and Zarian on his 5th birthday, both of them wearing silly hats and covered in frosting. There was no Kalen in that photo. He'd been on a trip that week. She had told herself back then not to be upset. He works hard, he provides. He'll make it up next weekend. But next weekend turned into the following month, into missed moments, into quiet erosion. And now, years later, that erosion had turned into clarity. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Kalen. "I've enrolled in a 6-month family accountability program. Weekly check-ins, group work, personal sessions. I'm not sending this to impress you. I just want you to know I'm putting in real work, not for a reward, but because I owe our son something better." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The next day, at Zarian's school, she was invited to speak briefly to a group of 8th grade parents about digital safety and emotional resilience in teens. It wasn't a formal event, just an open floor during the PTA's Q&A. But as she stood in front of a few dozen adults, she noticed something. No shaking hands, no racing heart. She was steady. "I'm not a parenting expert," she said, "but I know what it's like to parent through disappointment. And one thing I've learned is that our kids don't need us to be perfect. They just need to see us choose peace over performance." Afterward, a father approached her. I've never heard someone speak that gently and still make it hit so hard. She thanked him and walked out into the sunlight, her shoulders squared. That weekend, as they prepared for the final documentary shoot, Zarian asked her, "What are you going to wear?" "Probably black." "Simple." "Mom, you always wear black when you're trying to disappear." She blinked. "You think so?" "I think you don't have to anymore." She nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll find something brighter." When the crew arrived on Sunday, they were efficient but respectful. The lead producer shook her hand and said, "You don't need to perform, just be who you've always been." She laughed lightly. "That's all I know how to be." Zarian answered 3 questions on camera, only 3, but each one was direct. "What would you tell a kid going through what you went through?" "I'd tell them, you don't have to break just because the people around you forgot how to hold you." After the shoot, the team thanked them and packed up. The house felt calm again. That night, Irenia pulled out a small cardboard box from her closet. the last one she hadn't opened since leaving the beach house. Inside were old notes from her wedding planning days, scribbles from their early years of marriage, and a necklace Kaylin had given her when she signed the papers to buy their first home. She didn't cry. She took the box to the backyard fire pit, opened the lid, and fed the contents slowly to the flame, not out of bitterness, but to honor the girl she used to be, the one who thought love meant enduring silence. Monday morning came soft, with golden light slanting across the kitchen tiles. Irenia sat by the window with her tea, watching as a few early joggers moved past the house. There was something new in the way she exhaled, measured, grounded. Peaceful, yes, but more than that. Settled. Zarion came down the stairs, hoodie zipped, backpack slung over his shoulder. "Still thinking about the shoot?" she asked. "A little," he said. It felt weird being that honest on camera, but good weird. She handed him a banana and a granola bar for the ride. "You spoke from your gut," she said. "That's rare. Most people filter it. I didn't have to filter it with you," he said, then headed out the door. After he left, Irenia cleaned the kitchen slowly. She wasn't rushing toward any crisis. There was no meeting to prepare for, no inbox full of pressure. The home front schedule was set for the week, and her new assistant had everything under control. She moved through the day without defending herself to it. Mid-morning, she received a call from Kaylin. She didn't answer on the first ring, but on the second, she picked up. "Morning," he said. "Hi, I wanted to ask something. About this weekend, what about it? I know we're not doing holidays together. I respect that, but I was wondering if it would be okay to take Zarion to visit my father." "Just for the day," Irenia paused. "He hasn't seen your father since he was 9. "I know. That's why I asked. He's not sick or anything. Just old and trying. Like me. I'll ask Zarion. If he's comfortable, then I'm fine with it." "Thank you." She ended the call. It didn't linger like it used to. There was no emotional residue. At school pickup, she brought it up. "Your dad wants to take you to see Grandpa Dorsey." Zarion thought about it. "It's weird. I remember he used to smell like motor oil and mint gum." "You liked him." "I did. Until he disappeared like everyone else on Dad's side." She waited. "I'll go," he said. "Not for them. For me. I want to know if he remembers me as more than a baby picture on the mantle." That Saturday, Kaylin came to pick him up at noon sharp. He knocked, didn't honk. When Irenia opened the door, he greeted her respectfully. Not too warm, not too rehearsed. "I'll have him back before dinner." "Take your time," she said. "He knows how to use his words if he needs to come back early." Zarion came down, gave her a small nod, and left with his father. She didn't watch them drive away. Instead, she grabbed her bag and walked to the park nearby, the one with the stone benches and the willow trees. She sat under one and pulled out her notebook. She wrote, "Peace isn't what you find when everything stops. It's what you feel when everything continues, and you're not bracing anymore." An hour later, she received a photo from Zarion. He and his grandfather, sitting side by side on a porch swing, eating slices of watermelon. The caption read, "He remembered my allergies, didn't serve the peanut pie." She smiled. Later, he texted again. "We're good." He cried a little. I didn't. But it was a good cry for him, I think. Kaylin brought him back at 6:30, walked him to the door. Irenia opened it and looked between them. Zarion gave a small thumbs up and disappeared inside. Kaylin didn't say anything. He just stood there. She waited. He finally said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For letting me parent in the shadow of your stability." She tilted her head. "It's not a shadow, it's a standard." He nodded slowly. "Then thank you for setting it." She didn't invite him in, but she didn't close the door immediately either. Inside, Zarion reheated leftovers and talked about the porch swing, the old motorcycle in the garage, the mismatched slippers his grandfather wore. He didn't talk about pain, and that, Irenia knew, meant the wound had finally formed a scar. The next day, she finalized Homefront's next 6-month plan. It included mobile community sessions in 3 underserved districts, a digital library of resources in English and Spanish, an anonymous hotline for women who weren't ready to talk in person. Her board of advisors approved it within 2 hours. That evening, while brushing her teeth, she looked in the mirror and saw something new in her reflection. Not tiredness, not worry, not armor. She saw softness, the kind that returns when survival is no longer the default. Later, Mrs. Kendrick joined her on the porch. I saw Kaylin walking Zarion to the door yesterday. Yes, you looked steady. I was. You think he's changed? I think he's changing. That's enough for now. Mrs. Kendrick nodded. You ever think about trying again? Irenia sipped her tea. Only with myself. I'm rebuilding the parts of me that waited too long for someone else to change first. Her mother smiled. That's the answer I hoped you'd give. That night, Zarion came into her room, holding his sketchbook. I finished it, he said. She took it from him. The last page had a drawing of their current home. Front steps lit softly by the porch light. 2 silhouettes stood in the doorway, hers and his. Below it, he'd written, "Home isn't who stays. It's who shows up." She looked at him, eyes glistening. You're something special, Zari. You too, he said. You never broke. You just opened. She pulled him close and kissed the top of his head. And as he left the room, she whispered a quiet prayer, not for protection, but for continuation. Because now, they weren't surviving. They were living. Thursday morning came with a hum of newness. A cool breeze moved through the half-open window, rustling the curtains in. The kitchen, where Irenia stood barefoot, stirring oatmeal on the stove. There was no rush today, no deadlines pressing against her temples, no messages from Kaylin waiting to be addressed. The calm wasn't temporary anymore. It was becoming rhythm. Zarion came downstairs with his sketch pad tucked under one arm, hair slightly unkempt from sleep. Morning, he mumbled. Good morning, she said, sliding a bowl across the counter toward him. Late night? A little. I was working on the last piece. She poured herself a cup of green tea and leaned on the counter. The one for the youth art journal. Yeah. I called it when she closed the door. She paused, a small, surprised smile curving at the corner of her lips. Want me to read it? He shrugged. It's not a poem, just a sketch with a note. I still want to see it. He handed her the book. On the page was a drawing of their old house, viewed from the outside at dusk. A woman stood in the doorway, holding her son's hand. Her other hand was on the knob, halfway turned. The note beneath it read, She didn't slam it. She didn't whisper goodbye. She just turned the knob, stepped outside, and never waited for it to echo. Irenia blinked twice and handed it back without a word. Zarion looked at her. You okay? She nodded. I'm more than okay. By 10 a.m., she was at the new Homefront space for a planning meeting. A young woman named Lexa had recently joined the team as a communications coordinator. Fresh out of grad school, full of energy, but grounded. The kind of woman who asked thoughtful questions and didn't speak to fill silence. They sat across from each other, with folders spread across the conference table. I think it's time to start planning the retreat, Lexa said. A weekend program, nature setting, small group, real emotional work. Irenia raised a brow. That's ambitious. Lexa smiled. So was Homefront a year ago. They mapped out a 3-day retreat plan. Day 1, arrival and release. Day 2, reflection and resilience. Day 3, re-entry and realignment. Irenia ran her fingers across the calendar. You know, I used to think planning something like this would terrify me. And now it reminds me I'm not rebuilding in the rubble anymore. I'm building forward. Lexa closed her notebook. The number of women who follow your words, Irenia, it's bigger than you know. You're giving them permission to exhale. Irenia exhaled right then. That's the goal. That afternoon, she stopped by the grocery store to pick up ingredients for dinner. As she reached for a bag of jasmine rice, someone tapped her shoulder. She turned. It was Maker, an old friend she hadn't seen in nearly 4 years. They used to host brunches together before life got too loud. I thought that was you, Maker said, eyes wide. You look peaceful. Thank you. They hugged briefly, awkward at first, then warm. I read about Homefront, Maker said. Didn't know it was you behind it. It's been a busy season. I'd say so. Last time we talked, you were still trying to convince yourself things weren't falling apart. Irenia nodded gently. And now, I don't fix things that aren't mine to hold. They exchanged numbers. As she walked to her car, she realized she hadn't flinched at the reminder of who she used to be. At home, she and Zarian cooked together, chicken stir-fry and honey cornbread. He took the lead now, chopping onions like a pro, telling her about a classmate who wanted to create a comic book together. She said, I draw like someone who's seen a lot. You have, yeah. But I want the book to be about hope. She smiled, passing him the soy sauce. Then make sure you leave space in every panel for light, not just shadows. Later that evening, she received a formal invitation in her email. You've been nominated for the State Council's Resilience Award for Community Impact. Attached was a letter. Your work through Homefront has created measurable change in lives across the region. We hope you'll accept this nomination and attend the gala honoring recipients in 2 months. She read it, then read it again. This time, she didn't shrink. Zarian walked in and saw the screen. You won something. I've been nominated. You gonna go? She looked at him. Do you think I should? I think you walked away from something that made you small. And now you're being seen without needing to prove anything. That deserves a good dress. She laughed. I'll take that as a yes. That night, she journaled. I used to measure my worth in what I could hold together. Now I measure it in what I can let go of without losing myself. There's peace in the release. There's power in not needing to be applauded to feel real. Before bed, she stood by Zarian's door. He was already asleep, one arm tossed across his sketchbook. She whispered, Thank you for walking through the fire with me. The light from the hallway caught the edge of his drawing. It wasn't the beach house. It wasn't the courtroom. It wasn't her crying on the bathroom floor. It was her, standing on a stage, holding a microphone, and behind her, a room full of women, standing too. Saturday morning came with the crispness of early spring. The sky was clear, light poured in through the windows, and the quiet felt earned. Irenia sat on the porch steps with a mug in her hands, still warm from steeped ginger and honey. She was wearing one of Kaelin's old sweatshirts, not because she missed him, but because the cotton was soft and the sleeves were long enough to hold her comfort. Zarian stepped outside behind her and sat beside her, still rubbing the sleep from his eyes. You always wake up before me, he said. Some mornings, I just need to meet the silence before the day gets loud. He nodded, not asking for more. After a pause, he said, Do you think people can really change? Irenia turned her head to look at him. People can learn, and if they keep learning long enough, that learning starts to show up in how they live. But does it erase the damage? No, she said softly. Growth doesn't erase. It builds beside what happened, and eventually it reshapes it. They sat in the silence again, both of them holding different versions of the same memory, not speaking them aloud, just letting the wind do what it does, move without needing permission. Later that day, they drove out to a weekend farmers market in a neighboring town. It had become one of their new rituals, long drives without a destination that felt like running, and errands that ended up being about connection more than groceries. Zarian bought a new sketchpad from a vendor who made handmade paper from recycled leaves. Irenia found a stack of used books and a hand-stitched notebook with a quote embroidered. On the front, tell the story that healed you, not the one that hurt you. They stopped for fresh lemonade and grilled corn. At a bench shaded by trees, they sat and talked about nothing for a while. Then, Zarian surprised her with a question. Would you ever date again? She looked at him, a little caught off guard. I don't know. Maybe one day, you think you could fall in love again? I think I could trust again. And if trust stays long enough, love finds a place to rest. He chewed his corn slowly. I'd be okay with it, you know. If you ever did, thank you for saying that. He nodded, then smiled. "But if they hurt you, I'm turning them into a cartoon villain." She laughed out loud. "Deal." Back at home, she spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing Homefront's upcoming retreat applications. They had received nearly 70 entries in the first 3 days. Women from all walks of life. Some who had already left their situations, others who were still in them but quietly planning. One entry simply read, "I haven't said it out loud yet, but I read your newsletter, and it was the first time I believed I wasn't crazy for wanting peace." Irenia sat with that for a long time. The next morning, she met with Lexa and the team for a final walkthrough of the retreat structure. They were using a nature retreat center 2 hours outside the city, a quiet space with cabin-style lodging, a small lake, and room for honest conversations to grow without interruption. "Are we still doing the journal bonfire on the last night?" Lexa asked. "We are," Irenia said. "But we'll give them the choice to burn what they're releasing, or plant it. Sometimes the past needs to be let go in flame. Sometimes it just needs to be buried and fed to something new." Lexa nodded. "I love that." That evening, she opened her closet and pulled out the simple navy dress she'd chosen for the Resilience Award Gala. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't loud, but it fit her without needing to be adjusted, and that meant something. Zarian walked in with a bowl of popcorn. "Trying it on already?" "I just wanted to make sure I still liked it." "You look strong in it," he said. "Thank you." He paused in the doorway. "Do you remember when I asked you if you'd ever go back to Dad?" "I do. Would you want him at the gala?" She thought for a moment. "No," she said gently. "That stage is mine." He nodded slowly. "Good." The day before the gala, Kaylin sent a message. "I know the event is tomorrow. I won't ask to attend, but I want you to know I'm proud of you. And I'm proud of our son. If being quiet is what's needed, I'll stay quiet. But I'll be clapping here, wherever I am." She didn't reply, but she didn't delete it either. The next evening, she stepped onto the gala red carpet wearing the navy dress and a thin silver bracelet Zarian had gifted her earlier that week. He had chosen it because the charm was a tiny open book. "You keep writing things that make people breathe better," he'd said. "This is just a reminder." The event hall was full. Community leaders, volunteers, city board members, women she'd worked with, and women she hadn't yet met. There were camera flashes, speeches, awards for innovation, for service, for courage. Then they called her name. She walked to the podium slowly, not because she was nervous, but because she knew exactly where she was and what it had taken to stand there. Her voice didn't shake. "I didn't set out to create a non-profit. I set out to create safety. First for myself, then for my son, and then for anyone who didn't have the words yet to say they were hurting." She paused. "This isn't about a marriage that ended, or a betrayal, or a headline. This is about what I decided to do with what was left." She looked out over the crowd. "I chose not to bleed on people who didn't cut me. I chose to rebuild without making revenge the point. And I chose to walk into rooms like this not needing to be the strongest person here, just the most honest." The applause was quiet at first, then rising, steady. After the ceremony, she returned home and found a note on her pillow from Zarian. "Mom, I watched the live stream with Grandma. I've never seen someone look more like they belong. You didn't just stand there. You owned it." She folded the note and placed it inside her journal. Then she wrote, "There are some stages you walk across not to prove anything, but because your survival deserves a witness." 3 days after the gala, Irenia walked into the West Park Civic Building, to a standing ovation from the Homefront staff and volunteers. It wasn't a planned event, just genuine joy and pride spilling out of the people who had watched her rise quietly. Lexa handed her a bouquet of wildflowers. "You did it," she said. Irenia smiled, a little overwhelmed but steady. "We did it." A new plaque had been mounted on the wall just outside the meeting room. The Irenia Vale Dorsey, Resilience Hall, in honor of choosing peace and building a bridge so others could find it too. She stood there for a moment, eyes lingering on her own name. It didn't feel like ego. It felt like testimony. Inside the main room, A whiteboard listed the final plans for the upcoming retreat. Irenia scanned the notes, added a few adjustments, and nodded to the team. "We're ready," she said. Lexa asked, "Are you packed?" "Almost. You nervous?" "No," Irenia replied, "just prepared." That evening at home, she started filling her overnight bag. Comfortable sweaters, hiking boots, a slim copy of a poetry collection she always carried when she needed to find her voice again. As she folded the last shirt, Zarian knocked softly on the door. "Got a minute?" "Always." He stepped in, holding something behind his back. "This is for the retreat. From me." He handed her a small black-bound notebook. Inside, on the first page, he'd drawn a single match. Next to it, in his handwriting, "Fire doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it clears the way." She ran her fingers across the image. "Thank you. You're going to help them," he said. "I know you will. You help me help them," she replied. "By reminding me what's worth protecting." The retreat center sat on 45 acres of open land, 2 hours outside the city. A mix of cabins and open field, small docks on a lake, walking trails that smelled like pine and memory. 20 women arrived in staggered waves that Friday afternoon. Some came alone. Others carpooled, clutching thermoses and nervous energy. But once they crossed the property's wooden gate, a calm started to settle. Irenia stood at the center entrance, greeting them one by one. No big welcome speech, no clipboard checklists, just a smile and 4 words that had become her signature: "You're safe here now." By sundown, they had all gathered for the first circle session. No tables, no agenda, just a fire pit in the middle and low camping chairs arranged around it. She opened the session quietly. "Here, you don't need to be strong. You just need to be honest." The women nodded. Some cried immediately. Others said nothing, but their stillness said everything. One woman, Carla, broke the silence first. "My therapist told me healing was possible, but she didn't say it would feel this heavy." Another woman whispered, "I'm still with him. I haven't left. But something in me has." No one judged. No one offered fixes. They simply sat with her. Irenia passed around the journals. Each one had a different quote on the first page. No names. Just phrases like, "You are not what they did to you. Peace is not owed. It is claimed. It's okay to miss what you walked away from." As night wrapped around them, they added logs to the fire and wrote quietly. Some shared, others didn't. But by the end of the night, something had shifted. Not fixed, not solved, but shifted. Later in her cabin, Irenia sat by the window with her tea and opened Zarian's notebook again. She stared at the match drawing. Her mind flashed back to the beach house, to the scarf, to the moment her son looked at her, understanding everything without needing words. That was the first time she'd chosen presence over performance. She whispered into the dark, "Thank you for not letting me crumble." The next morning, after a light breakfast and a short group walk around the lake, they held the release session. Irenia invited each woman to write a sentence they hadn't yet said out loud, a truth they'd held inside too long. Then they had a choice: burn it in the fire or plant it under the tree near the water, letting it become soil for something else. Some burned theirs without reading. Others cried while folding the paper and burying it. Irenia wrote hers quietly. "I thought being quiet would protect my marriage. It only buried my voice." She planted it under a sapling. One woman stood beside her, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I've never felt less judged in my life." "That's because we're not here to judge," Irenia said. "We're here to remember we're human." That evening, they hosted a celebration. Not loud, not flashy, just music, a bonfire, and stories. One woman shared a poem, another brought out a harmonica. Laughter spilled from the fire pit like healing made audible. Irenia didn't lead that night. She simply sat, eyes full, watching the circle move without her needing to hold it. When the fire died down and most had gone to their cabins, one woman stayed back. She knelt beside Irenia and whispered, "I thought I'd just survive this, but now I think I can live again." Irenia placed her hand over hers. You can. You already are. That night, she slept deeply. No dreams, no fear, only rest. The hallway outside Zarian's bedroom smelled faintly of lavender. Irenia had switched to natural oils when he started middle school, hoping to help him sleep through the anxiety he never talked about. Now, with one hand resting against the doorframe, she watched her son with a quiet ache that didn't show on her face. He sat on the floor, back to the wall, knees pulled up, his notebook resting across them. A pen dangled from his fingers, untouched. He hadn't written in over 20 minutes. You want tea? She asked softly. Zarian shrugged without looking up. Sure, she didn't expect more than that. She knew the silence wasn't cold, it was bruised. At 13, he understood more than he should, and carried it in a way no boy should ever have to. Especially not because of his father. When she returned with the mug, he hadn't moved. But he took it from her hands and whispered, "Thanks." They sat in silence, her beside him now, the hallway dim except for the low light spilling from the kitchen. Zarian finally spoke. Is it okay to hate someone and still miss them? Irenia blinked slowly, letting the weight of his question settle before answering. Yes, feelings don't come in clean lines. They're messy. But you're allowed to feel every one of them. He sipped his tea, then rested his head against her shoulder. I think I just hate the version of Dad I used to love. I hate that he didn't stay that person. She wrapped an arm around him. I do too sometimes. Zarian whispered, I don't want to be like him. Is that why you left? I left, she said gently, so you'd always know the difference between staying quiet for peace and staying silent while someone hurts you. They sat like that a while. No need for resolution, just recognition. By the following week, Kalen had reached out again, this time through his lawyer, not to contest custody or push for reconciliation, but to formally agree to the terms Irenia had requested. Full custody, no spousal support, and supervised visitation based on Zarian's readiness. The lawyer's email was short. Mr. Dorsey regrets his actions and wishes to resolve matters in a way that honors your son's emotional well-being. Irenia stared at the screen for a long time before closing the laptop. It wasn't closure, but it was a beginning of one. That night, she pulled out a folder from her closet. Inside were her old resumes, grant applications, and unfinished proposals for a non-profit she once dreamed of building before marriage took center stage. Before she became a fixture beside Kalen, not a force of her own. The name came back to her before she saw it on the paper. Home front, she had chosen it years ago, inspired by her grandmother's stories of women who held communities together through grief, migration, war, and abandonment. Women who stayed, not out of fear, but because the foundation couldn't afford to break. Now she would build it, but not from a place of brokenness, from clarity. Zarian started writing again too, but this time it wasn't about pain, it was about identity. He submitted a piece to his school's literary journal titled, Names I Want to Earn. In it, he wrote, I don't want to be a man who wins arguments and loses people. I want to be a man who speaks less and hears more, who keeps his word like it's a promise to himself. I want to be someone my mom doesn't have to recover from. I want to be someone my father would not recognize, because I chose peace and meant it. Irenia read it 3 times in private before she kissed his forehead that night. Do you think Dad will read it? Zarian asked. She paused. Maybe. Do you want him to? No, she said honestly. I want him to feel it. It was around that time that Kalen requested one last meeting. No lawyers, no conflict, just a conversation. She agreed, with the condition that Zarian had already processed enough. This meeting was not for his son's healing. It was for a man's final attempt at dignity. They met at the same beach house he had once used for deception. Only this time, it was empty. He had sold it, as promised, and had the keys in an envelope which he handed to her. It's done. The buyer closes next week. Thank you, she said plainly. Kalen looked thinner, not poorly, just lighter in a way grief sometimes makes you. I still don't know what to say, he admitted. Everything I rehearsed sounds defensive or hollow. Then don't say anything rehearsed, she offered. He looked up. I thought about writing a letter to Zarian, something that doesn't explain, just acknowledges. Do you think he'd read it? I think he'd decide for himself, but yes, write it. For you, if nothing else. Kalen nodded, then reached into his jacket. He pulled out a small journal. I started seeing someone, a therapist. She told me to stop trying to fix the marriage I ruined and start fixing the man who ruined it. Irenia allowed a small nod. That's a beginning. He flipped through the pages. I learned that I didn't cheat because something was wrong with you. I cheated because something was broken in me, and I thought someone else's admiration would fix it. I know, she said, but it wasn't just cheating. It was the cover-up, the dishonesty, the arrogance that I wouldn't find out or wouldn't care. Kalen swallowed hard. I did care. I just didn't know how to protect what mattered once I started living double. Then this ending is mercy, she said quietly. Because no boy should learn manhood through mirrors cracked by betrayal. They walked a little after that, down by the surf. He asked her once, "Do you think we'll ever be able to laugh again?" She thought about Zarian's face when he made a joke that caught her off guard. Thought about how her mother said the same thing about grief. It doesn't steal your laughter, it just rearranges it. Maybe, she answered, but not the way we used to. They parted with no promises, no plans to be friends. Just mutual acknowledgement of the damage done, and the people who had to live beyond it. Back home, Irenia opened her laptop and typed her final response to her attorney. "Yes, I'm ready to finalize." She clicked send. The house felt still, not cold, just unburdened. Zarian walked in a few minutes later with a sketch pad under his arm. "Wanna see something?" She smiled. "Always." He flipped it open to a drawing. It was of a woman holding a house, not by the roof or the walls, but by the foundation. "That's you," he said, "and I'm inside it." Tears pricked her eyes. "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever been." He hugged her then, hard, long, without words, and in that embrace, the story they were rewriting together deepened, not with revenge, not with guilt, but with generational change. The kind that didn't ask for attention, but planted itself anyway. The kind that outlived betrayal and called itself home. 3 weeks later, Irenia stood outside a tall building made of glass and brick, her ID badge clipped neatly to her blazer. A banner hung from the canopy above, National Forum on Women, Equity and Economic Justice. She had been invited to speak on a panel about resilience in leadership, particularly for women building businesses after personal upheaval. It wasn't the invitation that surprised her. It was that when it came, she didn't hesitate. She belonged here now, not because of what she had survived, but because of what she had built after it. The moderator, a composed woman in her 40s, introduced her as founder of Homefront, a non-profit supporting women transitioning from marital separation to financial independence, with programs rooted in healing, structure, and self-worth. Applause rose as Irenia took her seat on stage beside two other speakers. Her nerves didn't make her tremble. They steadied her. During the Q&A, a woman from the audience asked, "What was the moment that made you stop surviving and start leading?" Irenia didn't need to think long. "It wasn't one moment," she replied. "It was the pattern of them. Realizing my silence wasn't protecting my son anymore. Recognizing that avoiding confrontation was creating confusion instead of peace. And understanding that leaving wasn't failure, it was a redefinition of dignity." The audience went quiet. Then came the kind of applause that meant they heard her. When the panel ended, several women lined up to speak with her, some with tears, others with notebooks. She stayed long after the session ended, answering quietly, offering names of resources, pointing women to shelter contacts, to her Homefront email. It wasn't about popularity, it was about usefulness. That night in her hotel room, she looked out the window at the city's skyline and saw her reflection in the glass. No longer hiding, no longer doubting whether she was too much. She finally looked like someone she trusted. Back home, Zarian had started working on a school project titled People Who Change the World Without Needing a Stage. His subject? His mom. He told his teacher she didn't make a big speech or run for office. She just walked away from someone who didn't protect her peace, and then she helped other women do the same. The teacher asked if he wanted to present it at the upcoming parents' assembly. Zarian hesitated, then said yes. The day of the assembly, Urania sat among the parents in the auditorium, legs crossed, hands neatly folded. She had no idea what Zarian had prepared. He'd kept it from her. When it was his turn, he walked up to the microphone, looked around, and said, "Most of the time, we call people heroes when they save lives, but sometimes saving your own life is the bravest thing a person can do. My mom didn't wait for someone to hand her peace. She made it. And then she built a bridge for others." A collective breath caught in the room. Zarian continued, "She always says presence is power, but I think her absence from things that hurt her was even more powerful. I want to be like her." He stepped back without tears, just conviction. Urania blinked fast, her throat tight. The principal leaned over and whispered, "You're raising a remarkable young man." She smiled. "He's raising me too." The following weekend, Urania received a letter by courier. No return address, just her name written in Kaylin's handwriting. She opened it carefully. Inside were two things, a letter and a check. The letter read, "This is not restitution. Nothing can repay what was lost. This is an investment in what you're building, because it deserves every chance to thrive. Please accept this as part of the life I should have helped you create sooner. And thank you for not letting my choices define your son." The check was made out to Homefront. It was sizable, enough to fund 3 more years of programming, counseling, job training, emergency relocation services. She held it for a long moment, then folded it back into the envelope and whispered, "Good." Not because she needed his money, but because he finally understood it wasn't about her. It was about the legacy left behind for a boy who had learned to draw strength from his mother's quiet fire. That Monday, she took the check to the non-profits board and had it routed into a restricted use fund for a new initiative, the Bridges program, designed for teens navigating the emotional toll of family betrayal. It offered therapy, mentorship, and creative outlets for healing. Zarian was the first volunteer to help design the logo. He chose a bridge with roots under it, so it wouldn't just carry people forward, it would hold them steady as they crossed. The restaurant was small, tucked between a quiet tailor shop and a florist. No paparazzi, no business partners, no expectations, just one booth near the window, where the light fell soft across Urania's face. She wore a pale beige sweater dress and no makeup. Her hair was in a low twist. She looked like herself, not the wife of a billionaire, not the board member of an education fund, just Urania Dorsey, and she had never looked more untouchable. Kaylin arrived 5 minutes early. He waited outside, unsure if she'd come, but when he saw her already seated, a strange guilt settled over him. She hadn't waited for him, not for the meal, not for clarity, not for anything. She was sipping tea. He walked in and sat across from her without a word. When the waiter came, Urania ordered for herself. Kaylin asked for the same, even though he wasn't sure what it was. "I didn't think you'd say yes," he said. "You didn't ask for a favor," she replied. "You asked for a meeting. I honor clear requests." Silence. Then Kaylin took a breath. "I wanted to say something to you, but every time I practice it, it sounds weak." Urania didn't nod, didn't prompt him. She watched. "I keep replaying the day at the beach house," he continued. "Not because I was caught, but because Zari was the one standing behind you." His voice cracked, and I never imagined hurting him like that. Urania set her tea down. "You never imagined being seen in your truth. But you lived in it." He nodded. "That day rewired something in him," she said quietly. He started asking different questions, not about you, about himself, about why adults pretend so much, why apologies feel like transactions. "I never wanted him to carry that," Kaylin said. "But he is, because you passed it to him. whether you wanted to or not. The food came. 2 plates. Herb pasta and flatbread. Neither touched it. Kaylin looked at her and said, "You never screamed. You never dragged me through the media. You never even told your mother the details. Why?" Irenia looked out the window, at a mother tying her daughter's shoe on the sidewalk, then back at him. "Because I didn't want my healing to look like revenge," she added. "And because I knew the silence would say more than my voice ever could." Kaylin stared down at his plate. "I sold the condo," he said. "I know. I returned the car. I know. I left the foundation board because I didn't want to use my power to cloak my failures." "That," she said softly, "I didn't know." He smiled bitterly. "It doesn't fix anything." "No," she said, "but it honors the parts of you trying to be better." A beat passed. "I wrote a letter to Zari," he said. "Haven't given it to him, but it's real. It says all the things I didn't say in time." She took a breath. "Then give it to him when your healing isn't an ask. When it's a gift." He nodded, swallowing the knot in his throat. They sat in silence again. Then Kaylin asked, "Do you miss me?" She didn't hesitate. "I miss who I thought we were. I miss the comfort of not questioning every word, but I don't miss the silence I lived in just to keep the image alive." He sighed. "Sometimes," she added, "we think love is holding on, but sometimes love is letting go without trying to reshape the person into someone they're not ready to be." Kaylin nodded. "I'm learning. I hope so. I'll still send support beyond court requirements," he said. "For Zari, for anything he needs." "He doesn't need more money, Kaylin," she said, voice firm. "He needs presence. And presence isn't wired to direct deposit." He looked ashamed. "You're right. He also needs room," she said. "Not to forgive you quickly, but to process slowly." "I'll wait. For his sake," she said. "I hope you mean that." The plates remained untouched, but neither seemed to notice. "Do you believe people can change?" Kaylin asked. "Yes," Irenia replied, "but not on someone else's timeline, not as proof. Real change isn't a performance." He took that in. "I used to think I had to be everything for you to stay," she said. Smiling wife, soft-spoken partner. "But I'm learning. I only ever needed to be me. And if that wasn't enough, it wasn't love. It was curation." Kaylin looked down, hands folded. She continued, "Your mistake wasn't falling for someone else. It was thinking I wouldn't notice. It was assuming loyalty was blind. It's not. Real loyalty sees, but it chooses to stay in truth, not denial. I wish I'd seen that sooner. You saw it. You ignored it." He nodded again. "Fair." Outside, rain started to fall lightly. The mother and child were gone. Kaylin reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. "I don't want to give this to Zari yet," he said, "but I want you to read it, so you know I'm not running anymore." Irenia hesitated, then took it. She didn't open it, but she said, "Thank you." He stood. "I'll pay." She nodded. As he walked away, she watched him. Not with hope, not with pain, with understanding. Because closure didn't come in the form of reunion. It came when you no longer needed anything from the person who once held your heart hostage. She waited for him to leave, then stepped out into the rain. Not rushed, not hiding, free. And as the drops hit her skin, she let them fall, like blessings, not burdens. Because this wasn't an ending, it was a return to self, to peace, to truth. And she was ready for whatever came next. Rain kissed the sidewalk outside as Irenia walked to her car. Her steps were slow, not hesitant, just unhurried. Like someone who no longer measured her worth by someone else's apology. The letter sat in her coat pocket. She didn't open it on the ride home. She didn't need more words. She had enough proof now. Not the kind typed and signed, but lived. Because healing isn't loud. It's quiet decisions made when no one is watching. She parked outside her place. Zari was at a sleepover. The house was still, clean, warm, the way she'd built it. Not perfect, but hers. She lit a candle in the kitchen and brewed tea. not out of ritual, but because silence this time wasn't empty, it was full of peace, of clarity, and of self-respect. She sat at the dining table, eyes on the window, and let the silence speak. It reminded her of the most important truths she'd gathered through every bruise, every quiet morning, every gut feeling she once swallowed. 1. Love requires presence. You can't wire care through money or mask absence with expensive gifts. Love shows up. It listens. It stays when ego begs to run. 2. Silence can be power. She had learned this the hard way. Screaming would have felt good for a moment, but it would have muddied the truth. Her stillness said more than words could. She didn't need to prove she was right. She needed to protect her peace. 3. Attention is currency. When Kaylin gave it to someone else, she didn't argue. She withdrew her investment, because what you give your focus to reflects your values, and she refused to live where she wasn't seen. 4. Dignity protects self-worth. Even in betrayal, she didn't lose herself. That was her win. She didn't drag anyone, didn't destroy his image. She simply walked away from the image they once curated and reclaimed her own reflection. Her phone buzzed. A simple text from Zari, "Love you, Mom. Good night." She smiled, and that was it. That was everything. She didn't need a new man to be whole. She didn't need her ex-husband's remorse to breathe. She had herself, and she was enough. Let Kaylin rebuild. Let the world spin. Let people wonder how she stayed so calm. It wasn't performance. It was peace. It was clarity. It was earned. And she wouldn't trade it for the illusion of love ever again. What did you take from this story? Was it the strength in her silence? The clarity that came from calm? Or the reminder that love, real love, must include presence, not performance? Comment below. Tell us what moment hit hardest. If stories like this stay with you long after they end, we invite you to join the Mr. Charles Stories family. Like, share, and subscribe for more emotionally rich stories that honor healing, dignity, and truth. And remember, every time you choose peace over performance, you choose power. Thank you for spending time with us. Until next time.